I do not care if you win or lose, but I care if you're boring.
And as always, since day one, Southern Hand Slugfest. Knockouts guaranteed. Hey everybody, Ricky Darwin here with Southern Hand Slugfest. We welcome you to episode 3 of the Dirty Boxing Podcast. We had 2 great episodes last week. One I did alone and one I had special guest Adam Nash with me. So we hope you enjoyed those. If you haven't yet already, please subscribe to Derwin Promotions on YouTube. That's where the majority of our content is going to be posted. So follow along and support us in this venture, and we'll keep doing these episodes. So we got a fun episode coming up later this week. I'm going to sit down with Michael Superman Snoddy and talk about some experiences, some stories, some background with him. So it's going to be fun to sit down with him for an hour or so. A topic I want to get into tonight, everybody, is something I've seen quite a few times, well, over decades really, but I've really it stood out to me a lot over the last 3 months. And, it's something, I'm not going to get into any specific situations about it. It's going to be a generality, but a couple of things that I just wanted to talk about is, if you're a fighter and you're navigating your way through the waters and you're looking to compete and you're training hard and you're at a gym, there's a couple of things. I think guys make a mistake. They misstep along the way. And that's primarily what I want to talk about tonight. I've seen a lot of guys just over the last few recent months turning pro. Let's talk about turning pro as a fighter. A couple of things, information tidbits, just some stuff to get out there. So you're an amateur. You may or may not have fights, and you're looking to turn pro, or you have aspirations of turning pro one day. The difference in amateur, a competitive career as an amateur fighter versus what it is as a pro is so vastly different. Some guys make the mistake and treat it like it's not. But this is just my advice for whatever it's worth. Guys turn pro too quickly the majority of the time. And I'm gonna touch on a variety of topics within that one subject. But turning pro as an amateur fighter, when you make that leap and you say, I want to go to the next level, and you feel you're ready, I'll just say at a baseline, it's very important you have a lot of people around you that's honest with you. God forbid, I hope every fighter, not all fighters are lucky to find this. If you find a really good coach, boxing, MMA, doesn't matter. If you find a really good head coach that has wisdom, experience, guidance, all this knowledge, that's a gigantic blessing. That's a huge blessing to have that. A lot of guys don't have that, whether they just haven't met the right coach to put that level of trust into or whatever the case may be. But, you should have a steady, you should definitely train at multiple gyms and network and travel around for sparring in a variety of gyms and all that. But I see guys turn pro. They have no real coach. They hop gyms like crazy, so they don't have any kind of consistent stable mates. For a coach to assess you daily, weekly, different aspects of your game, you got to spend some time together. There's going to be chemistry there. You got to get to know each other. Be like a head coach and a quarterback. The longer you spend together, the better. And you always want to grow and evolve and hopefully never plateau, always learning, always moving forward. But I see guys turn pro. They don't really have a home base as far as a gym. They don't really have a steady, consistent coach. All the old school fighters, I'm talking old school boxing, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, The guys, who turn pro and were looking to navigate their career, because it's a fight career, okay? Whether you work another job or not, you treat this as your fight career. When you turn pro, you should have a business-like approach on how you take on certain situations, risk reward analysis, and all that. But these old school guys, they had real steady coaches in their lives, and a lot of them had managers. They looked over their contracts. They sat down and talked to them about opportunities that presented themselves. They networked with a variety of promoters. They ended up getting options, and they could assess each of them accordingly based on where their fighter was at that time. And again, based on where their fighter is at that time, that goes back to that surrounding yourself with people who are honest with you. People who aren't honest with you or where you're at, or they don't really have an understanding of your skill set or the depths in which each of your attributes lie and your strengths and weaknesses, because everyone has them. That'll get you into trouble. That'll get you into fights you shouldn't be in. That'll get you into setup fights. That'll get you into a variety of situations. Look, if you're an amateur fighter, it's all experience. Take fights, navigate the waters. You might want to do kickboxing. You might want to do boxing. You might want to do MMA. You might want to do grappling tournaments. It's all experience. It's all experience. So when you're an amateur fighter, you're building experience. You put yourself in a variety of situations. You get a feel for the game. It's so important to build that foundation and assess yourself. Are you getting better as an amateur? Have you plateaued as an amateur fighter? Are you getting worse? You see some guys who they're on a losing streak, and it happens. You're taking a risk. You're going out there fighting other men or women. They're on a losing streak in their amateur career, 2 in a row, 3 in a row, 4 in a row, and they turn pro. Okay? So everybody's got an athletic prime. Everybody's got an athletic clock. That's not something you should ever rush. Again, you should be on an upward trajectory as an amateur. Maybe you capture a couple of amateur titles, variety of promotions, and the timing's right, and you agree, and your trusted coach agrees. May or may not have a manager. Your manager agrees. Your teammates you're grinding in the gym with every day, they agree. You make the leap and you turn pro. You put a team around you. You always have the mentality of a fighter, but everything has a risk-reward analysis to it. And every fight's a risk, but especially early on, you navigate your career. You take calculated risks. You know where you're at. You get matched well, and you see where you can go from there. You know your worth as a fighter. What do you bring to the table? Are you marketable? Are you a ticket seller? Do you bring good sponsors with you? Eyeballs. That fighter's worth more. He's worth more. He's built up a solid foundation of certain qualities that make him attractive being on a fight card. So you see a lot of guys turn pro just to turn pro, just to say they're a pro fighter. Well, there's nothing special about being a pro fighter. Number one, there is no minimum amount of amateur experience required to turn professional. I'm not sure if a lot of people know that or not. I know dozens and dozens of guys who have turned professional in whatever type of combat sport they're involved in. They had 0 amateur fights. So, and I'm going to also get into what happens after you turn pro. But these guys turned pro. They had no amateur fights. Okay. The first promoter that offered them $400 in a hotel room, they jumped at it. And they dive into a fight they really don't belong in. I've seen it hundreds of times. I almost said thousands because it probably is over 1,000 times now, just on a local level. Guys jump headfirst into stuff. They're not really thinking long term. Look, certain opportunities do arise, and you don't want them to pass you by. Timing's important. Building that foundation is important as early as possible. And there's a time and a place to turn pro. But if you haven't built that amateur background, that amateur experience, that pedigree, it's gonna get exposed immediately in a fight. So these guys get offered $400 in a hotel room, and all of a sudden they're a pro fighter. They're a pro fighter. Okay. That is so short-sighted. That is such a one-way trip. I wish more guys had a business approach and an experience approach early on. After you turn pro, I'll tell you this for a fact, 80 to 90% of your opportunities are going to go away right out the gate. Because what happens? We'll talk about MMA and boxing real quick. MMA. You go to a local MMA card, and I'll be vague in generalities here. They have 14 fights on the card. Okay, good little card there. 14 fights. How many of those fights are going to be amateur fights? I'll answer that for you. 10 to 12. 10 to 12 of those 14 fights that night are going to be amateur. Because amateur fighters are free for promoters. They have operating costs. They have a business budget. And if they're smart, they're going to assess that budget A through Z. Now, they are most likely, I've been to many all-amateur shows. By the way, I'm not talking about any kind of entertainment level whatsoever here. The greatest fights I've seen in my life have been amateur fights. The most exciting fights I've seen in my life have been a lot of amateur fights. Seen phenomenal pro fights too. So I'm not talking about any kind of entertainment value here, because you can go to an all-amateur show and it can easily, and often sometimes is, better than an all-pro show. So no entertainment level or anything like that's talked about here. So you go to an MMA event, they have 14 fights, 10 to 12 are amateur fights. Okay. So let's meet in the middle. Instead of 10 to 12, let's say 11 fights are amateur fights. So 3 pro fights that night, okay? Let's multiply everything by 2. There's 14 fights on that card. There's 28 fighters getting an opportunity that night, assuming they showed up, got licensed, and made weight. So 28 fighters get an opportunity that night, right? Okay. We said 11 were amateur. So 22 of those guys are amateurs, and 6 are pro. So going back to my original point, already out the gate, when you turn professional, just the way it is, about 80 to 90% of your opportunities are going to go away, because you're going to get mostly amateur cards. I'm not talking about Bellator. I'm not talking about PFL. I'm not talking about the UFC. I'm talking about when you first turn professional. You're 0-0. So you're looking for opportunities. Those professional opportunities are going to be fewer and far in between. What I usually see is guys turn pro. They have 1 or 2 pro fights very quickly, maybe a couple of months between, and then there's a big gap in inactivity. That's typically because it's so hard to find a fight. Ask a couple of pro fighters how tough it is to get on cards and get certain opportunities being a pro. Now you have to get paid. You have to match up with another pro who has to get paid. And it's a whole nother thing. The opportunities are there nationwide. A lot of pros you'll see, they have to travel. You're going to have to get out of your backyard a little bit to find those opportunities. Hop around different states, different promotions, different stuff like that. But you'll see a lot of pros, they either just fight for the same promotion over and over, and that's no problem. That's okay. You build your name locally. That's great. Or they have to travel a lot to get those opportunities. So if you don't have that one home-based promotion you fight for over and over and over again, you're gonna have to venture out some. But again, you'll notice the inactivity when guys typically turn pro because it's just harder statistically to find those opportunities, to get those opportunities. And that's just what it is. So that right there within itself is going to be its own challenge, let alone fighting other professionals and higher level of competition and all that stuff. You look at yourself as a product. Look at yourself as a product and look at yourself as a business. You are the CEO of your first and last name. Think of it like that. You're a business. How you carry yourself, the type of posts you make, how you fight, the type of interviews you give can determine what kind of support you might get from sponsors, the backing you might have. People have loyal friends and family. That's terrific. You have a backing. You have a following. That's attractive. That's attractive to promoters. That's attractive to being on fight cards and events. Fighters who don't really market themselves, they don't treat themselves like a business, they don't treat themselves like a product. They rush headfirst into every fight thrown at them and they dive at it. I know I keep repeating myself. That is such a short-sighted viewpoint. If you're taking this seriously, you want to be a fall guy and not really train in a reputable gym or not build some kind of organic connection with a real coach and not have any kind of trajectory on your fight career, that's fine. There's guys who want to be those types of fighters and be fall guys and stuff like that. I guess in a way the fight world needs those too. If you take yourself seriously, you train with serious people, and they're honest with you, and y'all assess each other, you get to know each other, sparring habits, training tendencies, lifestyle, their discipline, those kind of things. That's where you build a foundation of coaches know. You talk to a really good coach, he kind of knows what his guy is and isn't ready for. You know what I mean? Like you get these guys, they're trained by their dads, their uncles, stuff like that. Trust me, that's when you get real honesty. And coaches who really know their fighters do better. It's funny. It's not even a skill thing. It's an assessment and honesty thing that leads to success because you're honest about where you're at. You take the correct fights at the correct times. You take calculated risks. There's no way to remove the risks. No guts, no glory. There's no way to remove the risk. These guys have somebody that care about them and care about their well-being as much, if not more, the fighter does about themselves. You know a coach like this? You know what I'm talking about? These guys tend to thrive. They tend to excel, and you can see it. You can see it. Even at a surface level, even like not knowing anybody and going to an event, I see what kind of corner work they're getting or something like that, and you can tell typically where someone's at behind the scenes or what kind of base they have as far as a training camp, a gym, stuff like that. Going into Southern Hand Slugfest, man, it's a great way to get a lot of amateur experience and opportunities against guys you would never fight on your local circuit. We get guys from all over. You'll fight different styles, speed guys, power guys, brawlers, street fighters, tall guys with a good jab, short, stocky guys who work the body. I mean, just you'll get a lot of different styles you'll see over the course of one night. It's a great way to get experience. It's a great way to go in there, have fun, let your hands go, see how you handle yourself under pressure, see how you handle yourself in a firefight, and what you'll gain in just a couple of tournaments is so invaluable. So that's something that's very cool about it. But yeah, I just wish guys had a business approach. I see stuff sometimes and I just shake my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's walking into this. And you see it a lot, man. I try to stay neutral. I am nobody's coach. I'm nobody's advisor. My opinion might mean nothing to you. That's completely fine. But I do know what I'm talking about. And I just wish guys had that business approach. They set the foundation of an amateur background and they built off of that. You get a couple of good teammates, you're going to get so much better just because of that. You get a couple of good teammates that are experienced. They've been there, forged in the fire. Guys you want to go to battle with. Man, you are so far ahead of the game. You're so far ahead of many fighters, just that alone. So that's a blessing. Never overlook your coaches. Never overlook a good mentor you might have. That's absolutely invaluable. So yeah, that's the main topic I wanted to talk about, was just turning pro is a business decision. You're involving money and contracts where you know your worth. You have to be honest about your skill set. And once you turn pro, there's no going back. It's over. You're going to be a professional fighter for the rest of your life, whether you're inactive or active. There's no, well, I haven't fought in 5 years. Can I take an amateur fight? None of that. So it's something to really think about. I think guys take it a little lighter. And I'm being general when I say guys. I think there's a lot of guys who do it the right way. So this is for some people who might be on the fence or anything like that. But you take a lot of options off the table once you turn pro. And you see guys, they're not even ready to turn pro skill-wise. And you can kind of tell. So they dive into these guys and they'll make their debut. And they'll go fight an undefeated prospect in that guy's backyard on a promotion that guy has fought for multiple times. Okay? It's gutsy. At a bravery level, I gotta love it. I appreciate it. I really do, to a certain aspect. But it ain't business savvy. It ain't smart. You're just getting your feet wet in the pro world, and you're trying to see how far you can take it. You're going to have to take calculated risks, but you should be managed and navigated well and set up for success. Floyd Mayweather retired 50-0 with 27 knockouts. He fought in the 1996 Olympics. His final pro fight before he started doing all these exhibitions and stuff like that was 2017. So I think he had his first pro fight in 97 after the Olympics. So he was professional for 20 years. Okay? Few men have been more skillful with boxing gloves on their hands, period, regardless of what you think of him. Especially in the early days, he was really knocking people out. Back when he was Pretty Boy Mayweather, he was actually very offensive. So the back end of his career, you can hear his story. His hands broke down. He had so many hand surgeries. He was going up in weight. He was fighting top tier world champions, and he just couldn't finish guys. That's all. But one of the most skillful men to ever lace up boxing gloves, if you're being honest. Mayweather was a professional for over 20 years. If he had taken the wrong fights at the wrong time, or not climbed the ladder properly from starting out pro to a prospect to a contender to a champion to a multiple weight class champion to a unified champion where he captured all the weight classes in one title and captured all the weight classes, all the titles in one weight class, excuse me. If he had bad management and coaches that weren't honest with him and like that, Floyd Mayweather would have a loss on his record. Now, I just said that's one of the most skillful men that's ever put boxing gloves on. He would have a loss on his record. He would have maybe losses. So he got, and being undefeated is not everything. I'm not saying that. My favorite fighters ever have losses. You kidding me? Mike Tyson has 6 losses. Muhammad Ali has 5 losses. I mean, that's part of the game. There's nothing wrong with that. But these guys ended up marketable and successful through building a team around them, honest assessments of where they are at, calculated risk, climbing the ladder. And, you know, there's a formula there at every level, on a local level, anything like that. But treat yourself like a business and not a damn punching bag, and be smart. And that's great. Have an exciting style and be a fan-friendly fighter. There's nothing wrong with that. When you're an amateur, jump at opportunities. Take opportunities. Get experience. Still have those bases I was talking about. You don't wait to be a professional to get that coach and those teammates and that foundation and all that. Get all those things in place and you're amateur, and it'll be second nature by the time you're pro. Have all that, but take opportunities, get experience, do all of that. And then if the right timing works out and you feel you're ready and the people around you feel you're ready and the opportunities arise, take them. Go for it. See what you can do. So that's just something I wish more guys thought about. Just navigating their fight career path. So, yeah, just treat yourself like a business. Be smart. Be marketable. I always said that there's 3 ways that fighters can be super marketable. They're kind of funny, but they're kind of true if you really look at them. Some of them have all 3. If you just have one, it can actually lead to superstardom. Again, at any level, local, amateur, world champion, whatever it is. There's guys out there who are very marketable and they speak well and they give great interviews and just marketable guys, the kind of guys you want to throw on a cereal box. There's guys out there who have the most exciting styles. They're never in a boring fight. They knock people out. They finish people. They have an undeniable style to them where you're just like, I can't wait to see that guy fight again. I can't wait to see that guy fight again. So if they're good with their fighting style and they're good with their presentation, with their interviews, with their speeches and all that's 2 tickets right there where you become so marketable. A guy who has a personality, a guy who's a character, oh man, I have Mike Tyson interviews embedded in my brain, or Prince Nassim Hamad. So many guys, Hector Camacho. Some of these interviews these guys gave were legendary. It just added to their aura it added to their presence. That guy's a character. You remember characters. So there's guys that have super exciting files and being marketable. Like I said, how you present yourself, the kind of sportsman you are, and you can go the other route. You can play heel. It's that, like I said, that character and that personality is something that's vital. Some guys, they don't want to talk and they're silent. They're going to let their fighting do the talking for them. And if they finish guys consistently, they don't need to say anything. They're knocking people out. They're finishing people. It doesn't matter. You get a Conor McGregor who was knocking people out, and then he got in the microphone and it was as good as his knockout. There's fighters like that too, where their style's undeniable and their marketability is undeniable. Sugar Ray Leonard was like that. One of my favorite fighters of all time, top 3. He had it all. Speed, power, tenacity, heart, courage, blazing hands. And he was such a gentleman. He was handsome. People's grandmas loved Sugar Ray Leonard. He broke through. People who didn't even follow boxing fell in love with Sugar Ray Leonard. He was one of the darlings of the 80s. And like I said, he'd wear a suit and a tie. And this guy won the gold in the Olympics, I think 1976 in Montreal. I think it was 76 or 80. This guy won the gold medal in the Olympics. That right there made him marketable, just because of the amount of eyes that are on the Olympics. But how he spoke and how he carried himself. And, Ali was like that. He's rhyming and he's creating poetry about his opponents and so many things. The kind of humanitarian he was, too, outside the ring made him special. Of course, his fighting skills were special. One of the best jabs a heavyweight, if not the best jab of any heavyweight of all time. Footwork impeccable, style for days, legendary fights, legendary rivalries, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Sonny Liston. Phenomenal storied career. It's also what he did out of the ring. You're a total package. It's how you present yourself. It's the marketability of it all. So you look at yourself as a product overall. You're expressing yourself through fighting, but what you are is you're this total package. You get people who love cocky fighters. They love someone who talks shit. There's people out there, and you'll watch them to lose. We know that. Everyone knows of the fighters. There's guys in the UFC right now. There's guys littered in the history of boxing that over the years, they just talk so much trash. You tune in to watch them lose. So in totalitarian of it all, you treat yourself as a business and as an overall product. How you speak and how you present yourself, what you wear, how you carry yourself, and definitely how you fight. Because you can do all that other stuff, but it don't matter if you're not bringing it. So that should go without saying. But there's tangibles and there's intangibles. Things you can see on the surface, things you can't see on the surface. So look at yourself as a product and a business and a fighter. Okay? All those things are important. You can be the total package when you can put all that together. Market yourself, believe in yourself. A little thing like create a logo. Create a logo. Take your initials, put it on a t-shirt, create a logo. Having a fun nickname. Doesn't matter. Okay? There's a lot of things you can do. Just those little things where you're branding yourself, okay? You're branding yourself. You're a product, you're branding yourself. So it's just something to think about if you haven't already. If you have, keep doing what you're doing. Keep grinding. Keep going. So, but I just want to say to everybody, just fighters out there, you're climbing the ladder, you're navigating the waters, you're looking for opportunities, you're taking opportunities and stuff like that. think about what I said. If it helps you and makes you 1% better in any category, you grew. You grew. So I'm going to sign off on that. Keep this one to the point. That was just the topic that had been on my brain. I wrote nothing down, by the way. I just came in here and winged it, so I'm sorry if I got repetitive at all or anything like that. But yeah, I appreciate everybody tuning in. We are 6.5 weeks away. I got an episode coming up soon. It's going to talk about all the storylines heading into Southern Hand Slugfest 12. I'm so excited for y'all to hear them. We got champions returning. We got a lot of debuts coming in. We got some exciting debuts coming in. We have fun guests coming on this show. Check out our Southern Hand Slugfest business page, our rankings, what we're building, the opportunities we give. The greatest one-night fighting tournament. By far, it ain't even close. The original, often replicated, never duplicated. Southern Hand Slugfest. We appreciate y'all. We appreciate y'all's support, what we're doing, what we're trying to do, what we're building, what we're growing. And God bless y'all. Onward and upward. Thank you.